The wind howled across the burned land. Ash floated in the air like black snow. Smoke curled from broken towers and shattered ground armor. Outpost 9 was nothing more than a skeleton of steel and dust. The Arindian recon squad landed quietly, their boots pressing into cracked soil. 5 soldiers, armored in silver-blue tech suits, moved through the ruins. Their leader, Commander Elira, scanned the area with her glowing violet eyes. She was tall, graceful, and calm, like all Tieri. Her kind could sense thoughts like a whisper in the wind. But here, something was different. There shouldn't be anything alive, one of her soldiers whispered. This post fell weeks ago. Elira raised her hand. Wait. A low thud echoed from ahead, then another. The group dropped to cover, weapons drawn. From the smoke, a figure limped into view. His armor was old, scratched, patched with scavenged metal, smeared with dried blood and dirt. A red earth symbol still glowed faintly on his chest. In one hand, he dragged a heavy energy rifle. In the other, a homemade blade, sharpened from what looked like a broken mining tool. He wasn't walking. He was forcing himself forward. Identify yourself, Elira called out in Galactic Standard. The man looked up. His face was bruised, his lip cut, one eye nearly swollen shut. But when he smiled, it was the kind of smile that didn't belong in a war zone. It was sharp. It was human. Lieutenant Dane Riker, he said, voice hoarse. United Earth Forces. Elira stepped closer. You're the last one? Last one still breathing, he answered. Everyone else left the party early. She blinked. You've held this line alone. He nodded. For 13 days, give or take. Hard to tell time when your clock's been used as a grenade fuse. One of her soldiers shook his head in disbelief. Why didn't you evacuate? Riker glanced back at the scorched remains of a defense turret. Because losing wasn't an option. Silence fell. The wind moved around them like a whisper of ghosts. Elira walked to him, scanning his vitals. You're half dead. Half alive, he corrected, smirking. Then his body swayed. She caught him before he could fall. He looked up at her, eyes clearer now. You're not with Earth Command, he said quietly. No, she replied. We're Coalition, but we're here now. He gave a tired nod. Then get ready. They'll be back soon. Who? Riker turned toward the horizon. A dull, pulsing light shimmered behind the hills. The sky flickered with the same dark red hue. The swarm, he said. They don't stop. They don't rest. But neither do I. He pulled away, standing tall again despite the pain. The outpost might have been broken. The tech might have failed. But Riker hadn't. And as long as one human still stood at the wall, this war wasn't over. Commander Elira couldn't stop watching the human. Lieutenant Dane Riker was unlike anyone she had ever met. He had no backup, no working comms, no supply drops. And yet he was still here, still standing. She followed him as he walked slowly into the broken command tower. The doors had melted halfway shut. He squeezed through with a grunt. The inside was dark, lit only by flickering blue lights from half-dead screens. Smoke hung in the air. Bullet holes and claw marks covered the walls. In the corner, an old solar battery hummed weakly, powering a small table filled with tools, maps, and scrap parts. This is your base? Elira asked. Riker dropped his gear with a heavy breath. It's home sweet apocalypse. Don't mind the mess. Hadn't expected guests. One of Elira's soldiers, a quiet Tieri named Solon, touched a cracked console. Why did Earth Command leave you? They didn't leave, Riker said. They died. He picked up a piece of bent metal and started sharpening it. I was part of Echo Squad. We were sent here to stop the swarm from reaching the inner colonies. They hit us harder than we expected. Jammed our comms, hit our drop ships, tore through everything. Elira frowned. And you didn't retreat. Riker looked up. I had orders to hold the line, and a reason not to run. She tilted her head. What reason? He paused, then gave a sad, crooked smile. Someone I loved was here. A medic. Lyora. She believed this post could hold. So I stayed. For her. For everyone who didn't make it. Illyra's heart tightened, though she didn't show it. We'll get you out. You've done enough. But Riker shook his head. I didn't stay just to survive. I stayed to make sure they didn't win. The swarm needs to believe we're stronger than they are, even if I have to fake it. Outside, the ground rumbled. Solon looked up. They're close. Riker stood, grabbing his rifle. Then we don't have much time. Illyra opened her comm link. Prepare defenses. This position is active. Riker chuckled. You're staying. For now, she replied. We don't abandon those who fight for something. Riker nodded, then moved toward the defense wall. What little tech remained was patched together, scavenged drones, spike mines, a motion-triggered flamethrower made from fuel cells, and a broken food heater. Illyra stared at the strange mix of weapons. This is madness. Riker smiled. No, Commander. This is humanity. As night began to fall, the sky turned orange with smoke. Far beyond the hills, the first flashes of enemy movement shimmered like stars falling sideways. Illyra watched Riker lean on the wall, rifle ready, eyes sharp despite exhaustion. No reinforcements, she asked. He shook his head. Nope. No retreat. Never. She looked at him and realized something. He didn't just survive here. He belonged here. And as the ground began to shake again, Illyra knew this battle wasn't just his anymore. The sky above Outpost 9 darkened with heavy clouds. Lightning flashed in the distance, casting shadows over the broken land. Inside the remains of the command center, Riker sat alone, sharpening a blade with slow, careful movements. Each scrape echoed in the silence. Commander Illyra watched from the doorway. Her violet eyes studied the human. He wasn't just tired. He carried weight inside him, heavier than any armor. She stepped closer. You said someone you loved was here. Riker didn't look up. Lyora, medical officer, stationed here with me. Is she? He stopped sharpening the blade. His voice dropped, softer now. They took her. Illyra tilted her head. The swarm? Riker nodded. During the first wave, we tried to evacuate the wounded. I was helping her carry a boy, burned bad. The swarm dropped out of the sky like shadows with claws. One moment she was there, the next gone. He gripped the blade tighter. I searched for days, found blood, a patch from her uniform, nothing else. Illyra sat beside him on a bent steel beam. You think she's still alive? Riker's eyes flicked toward the firelight from a flickering lamp. No. But I made a promise. That I'd protect this post. That I'd make sure they didn't get through. She believed this place mattered. Why? Because it's a gate, he said. Beyond this ridge is a colony full of civilians. If Outpost 9 falls, they're next. Illyra let his words settle. Her people didn't understand humans fully. Not yet. They knew humans were strong, clever, loud, brave. But they didn't always know why. Now she understood a little better. You stayed for love, she said. Riker nodded once. Love, duty, rage. Doesn't matter anymore. Just one thing left. Hold the line. Outside, the thunder cracked. Distant sounds of insect-like clicking echoed, signs the swarm was near again. Riker stood and strapped the blade to his leg. Time to check the charges. Motion sensors might have picked up movement. Illyra rose as well. I'll come with you. He smirked. You sure? Not too late to run. She answered with a small smile. We don't run either. They walked through the outpost ruins together, past empty bunks, shattered glass, and the rusted shell of a supply drone. In one quiet corner, Riker stopped at a small, handmade marker. It was built from scrap metal and wires, tied with a red ribbon. Illyra touched it gently. For her. He nodded. I talk to it sometimes. Makes it feel like she's still here. Illyra didn't speak. She just stood quietly beside him, sharing the silence. As the wind picked up and distant sounds grew louder, Riker looked out toward the darkening ridge. "I'm not the hero type," he said. "But if they come, I'll be the last damn wall they ever meet." And with that, they walked into the night. Two soldiers from different worlds, united by one thing: the promise not to fall. The night settled over Outpost 9 like a heavy blanket. The wind had calmed, but tension filled the air. Riker and Illyra moved carefully through the ruined base, checking traps and sensor nodes. Broken walls, rusted panels, and forgotten helmets made the place feel more like a graveyard than a military post. Near the old control room, Riker stopped and placed his hand on a thick metal door. "What's in there?" Illyra asked. He smiled slightly. "My second in command." The door opened with a groan. Inside, cables hung from the ceiling like vines. Screens flickered weakly, showing static and half-glitched symbols. At the center of the room sat a tall black cord, its edges glowing dim blue. Dust covered most of the equipment, but the room pulsed with a strange kind of life. A voice crackled from the speakers, deep, rough, and oddly cheerful. Well, look who's still breathing. That you, Riker? Or just another hallucination?" Riker chuckled. "Still me, Ghost. Got company this time." The voice changed, becoming more serious. "New signature detected. Not hostile. Coalition. TRE. Interesting." Illyra raised a brow. "Is this an AI?" Riker nodded. "Codename Ghost. Prototype combat AI. Used to assist battlefield decisions, but the swarm fried most of its brain. Now it mostly talks nonsense and quotes old war songs." The AI spoke again. "I prefer the term tactically unstable. Keeps things fun." Despite its oddness, Illyra noticed something. Ghost was still functional. The damage system still tracked movement, heat signatures, and supply levels. It even had records of every fight Riker had survived. "You've been using this AI all along?" she asked. "It's helped more than you'd think," Riker replied. "It watches my back, gives me warnings, plays my favorite music when the power holds. Also," Ghost added, "I remind him to eat. He's terrible at that." Illyra smiled softly. For the first time, she saw more than just a broken soldier. Riker had built a strange, loyal world around himself, scraps of old tech, stubborn systems, and sheer human will. Suddenly, one of the side monitors blinked red. "Movement detected," Ghost said. "Eastern sector. 100 meters. Multiple legs. Swarm pattern confirmed." Riker's eyes narrowed. "They're early." "Time to lock and load," Ghost said. "I'll prep the defense grid. Good luck, meatbags." As alarms began to beep, Riker handed Illyra a spare rifle. "Welcome to the real party." She took it without hesitation. Together, they sprinted back into the outer yard. The mines hummed, drones lit up, and defense lights flickered on. From the ridge, shadows started to crawl forward, fast, many-legged, and glowing with red eyes. Riker stood tall, rifle aimed. "No backup. No rescue," he said. Illyra joined him. "No retreat. Just the two of us," Riker muttered. Ghost's voice crackled in the distance. "Correction. 2 of you and 1 half-crazy AI." Riker grinned. "Then let's show them what a ghost, a warrior, and a human can do." And as the first wave of enemies appeared, the battle for the outpost began again. The ground trembled. Dust rose from cracks in the earth. From the top of the outpost wall, Riker stared into the darkness, his grip tight on the rifle. The clicking sounds were louder now, sharp, fast, and many. The swarm was coming. Illyra stood beside him, calm but alert. Her sharp Tayari senses could feel the vibrations in the air. "There are more of them than last time." "Good," Riker said with a dry smile. "Means we annoyed them." A flicker of movement caught his eye. In the distance, red lights flashed across the hillside like fireflies. But these lights weren't friendly. They were eyes, hundreds of them. The swarm crawled over the ridge like a living wave. Insect-like machines mixed with dark, spiked creatures. They moved fast, their bodies clicking and buzzing, limbs sharp and glowing. They weren't just attacking. They were hunting. Ghost's voice echoed from the wall speakers. Swarm confirmed. Over 100 life forms. Approaching sectors 3, 5, and 6. Defensive mode engaged. May the odds be in your favor. The mines lit up first. A loud boom shook the air as the front runners of the swarm stepped into a trap. Dust and pieces flew upward, but more followed, crawling over their fallen like ants. The swarm never hesitated. "Drones up," Riker shouted. 4 battle drones rose from their posts, spinning fast. Blue lasers flashed as they fired, cutting through the attackers. But the swarm was learning. Some twisted sideways. Others shielded their cores with thick, armored limbs. Riker jumped down from the wall, rolled, and landed near a broken supply crate. He pulled out an old launcher, wiped the dust from the barrel, and grinned. "This old girl still works." He fired. A bright missile roared through the air and exploded right in the middle of the swarm. Smoke and flame shot into the sky. Illyra moved like a blur, her energy blade slicing through creatures that got too close. She had trained for battles like this, but never with a partner like Riker. He fought without fear, laughing even as blood dripped from his arm. "You're bleeding," she called out. "I'm human." "It happens," Riker answered, firing again. Ghost's voice crackled. "Eastern wall is falling. Recommend fallback." "Denied," Riker said. "We hold." The swarm pushed harder, climbing over destroyed drones and rubble. They screeched and snapped, surrounding the outpost like a tide. Riker pulled Illyra behind a fallen wall section. "We can't stop them all," she said. "Not all," Riker agreed. "Just enough." Suddenly, one of the bigger swarm creatures charged. It was huge, twice the size of a normal drone covered in red armor. Riker had aimed but hesitated. His ammo light was red. "Out," he muttered. Illyra stepped forward, eyes glowing. "Not yet." She threw her blade like a spear. It flew straight into the beast's eye and exploded. As the creature fell, the rest of the swarm paused. Breathing hard, Riker looked at her. "Nice throw." "We're not done yet," Illyra said. And as more red eyes appeared in the smoke, they stood side by side, ready to fight until there was no fight left. Smoke filled the air. The ground was scattered with broken metal, crushed swarm bodies, and scorch marks. Sparks flew from damaged drones and shattered walls. The outpost had survived the first wave, but only just. Riker leaned against the wall, breathing heavily, a bloody bandage wrapped around his arm. Sweat dripped down his face. His rifle was cracked. His eyes were tired. But he still wore that same half-smile, the one that said, "Not yet." Commander Illyra stood over a control panel, her fingers flying across the cracked screen. She was trying to reboot one of the last working shield generators. "You should rest," she told Riker without looking up. "I'll rest when we're out of ammo and hope," he replied. The generator sparked again. A low hum began, weak but steady. "I've got partial power," Illyra said. "Better than no power," Riker replied. She turned to face him. Her sharp eyes studied the human, wounded, exhausted, but still unshaken. Most soldiers would broken after a single day like this. He had survived 13. "I made a decision," Illyra said. Riker raised an eyebrow. "Sounds serious." "I sent a long-range signal to my ship. I've requested backup. It will take hours to arrive, if it gets through the interference." Riker blinked. "That's against Coalition protocol, isn't it?" "This outpost isn't one of your holdings." "I don't care," she said firmly. "You held this line alone. Now we hold it together." He looked at her for a long moment. Then slowly he smiled. "Commander, you just earned yourself a seat at the crazy table." She allowed herself a small laugh. "I think I was already sitting there." Just then, Ghost's voice buzzed through the radio. "Heads up. More movement. West Ridge. 20 minutes out. Bigger group this time. Riker stood straighter. Can we hold? Illyra hesitated. We'll have to gamble. She pulled up a map. I'll draw them into the southern corridor. It's narrow. We set charges there. That's where the wall is weakest, Riker pointed out. I know, that's why they'll go for it. He nodded slowly. Risky. Do you have a better plan? Riker thought for a second, then shrugged. Nope. But if it fails, we make it loud. They moved quickly. Together, they planted old mines, rerouted wires, and activated the last auto turret. Illyra's calm leadership matched Riker's wild instincts. Where she planned every step, he improvised with confidence. As they worked, something shifted between them. A silent respect, a quiet bond. They didn't need to speak it, but they both knew they were no longer fighting alone. When they were done, Illyra looked at the approaching storm on the screen. You said this post mattered, she said. Riker nodded. It still does. She turned to them. Then let's make this count. He loaded his rifle, winced from the pain, then smiled again. Commander, it's gonna be one hell of a gamble. Illyra's eyes glowed faintly. Then let's bet everything. And as the next wave of swarm creatures rushed toward the outpost, they stood side by side. 2 warriors, 2 worlds, 1 line left to hold. The air was thick with tension. Every machine in Outpost 9 hummed with warning signals. The shield pulsed weakly over the base, flickering like a dying flame. Riker checked the charges along the south corridor, while Illyra stayed at the comms table, watching movement patterns on a damaged screen. Ghost's voice cracked through the speaker. Incoming wave is bigger than last time. Double formation. Estimated arrival 6 minutes. Riker wiped sweat from his brow. We hold, just like always. But Illyra didn't answer. She was staring at something on the screen, a symbol blinking in the corner. A communication signal, not from her ship, not from Coalition Command. This signal, it's from the Hive, she said softly. Riker paused. They're sending a message. Illyra nodded. It's encrypted, part biological, part digital. I can't fully decode it, but they're not trying to hide it. Ghost added, it's meant for us. Correction, meant for him. The screen shifted. A faint, ghostly image appeared, shaped like a creature, tall and insect-like, with a glowing crown of light across its head. Its voice came through in strange layers, as if 1,000 whispers spoke at once. Human, Riker, we remember you. Riker froze. You fight for the dead, for the weak, for the lost. The voice became clearer, female, cold but strangely familiar. We have something you seek, something you loved. Illyra turned toward him, worried. Riker, they're talking about Laura. His grip tightened around his weapon. She's dead. I saw the blood. The Hive Queen's voice continued. She lives, within us. Changed. Chosen. Not like before, but not gone. Riker's face went pale. His heart pounded. Was this a trick? Or the truth? Ghost spoke again, its voice lower. The Hive doesn't lie. They don't need to. If they say they kept her alive, even as part of the swarm, they mean it. Illyra stepped closer. They're trying to break you, Riker. Make you weak. But Riker didn't speak. His mind raced. Laura was his reason to fight, his reason to stay. Now they claimed she was still out there, part of them. The Hive Queen's voice echoed one last time. Come to us, and see her. Or stay, and burn. Then the signal ended. The screen went dark. The storm outside grew louder. The swarm was almost at their walls again. Riker stood in silence. His hands trembled just slightly. Illyra touched his shoulder. We need you here, Riker. Whatever the truth is, don't let them control you. He nodded slowly. They want me to doubt, to break. But if there's even a chance she's alive, I can't ignore it. We'll find the truth later, Illyra said firmly. But first, we survive this. Riker looked at the horizon, where red eyes glowed in the dark. They want to make this personal, he said. Fine. He raised his rifle and took his place on the wall. Let's show them what it means when a human has something worth fighting for. Rain began to fall over Outpost 9, light at first, then stronger, washing blood and ash from the ground. It hissed as it hit hot metal, turning the broken battlefield into a sea of steam and flickering lights. Inside the command center, Riker stared at the broken screen. The Hive Queen's voice still echoed in his mind. She lives, not like before, but not gone. Leora. The name felt like fire in his chest. Commander Illyra stood across the room, arms crossed, her gaze firm. You're not thinking clearly. Riker didn't answer. He was deep in thought, caught between hope and fear. She might be alive, he said finally. Changed, but alive. That's what they want you to believe, Illyra replied. They're using her against you. Riker turned toward her, his voice low. I made a promise, remember? If she's still out there, part of the swarm or not, I have to try. I can't just let her go. Illyra stepped closer, calmer now. And what if trying costs you this outpost? These people, the line we swore to hold. Riker looked down. His hands clenched. His mind flashed with images. Lyra's smile, her steady hands as she treated wounded soldiers, the red ribbon she used to tie back her hair. She was the reason I stayed, he whispered. But you're right. I can't lose this fight chasing a shadow. At that moment, Ghost interrupted. Incoming feed. Again. But this time, it's visual. The monitor buzzed to life. The image was blurry at first, then sharpened into something strange. A face. Female. Familiar. Leora. Riker breathed. Her features were there, changed, but not erased. Her skin shimmered with swarm tech, and one of her eyes glowed softly with red light. But her voice, though distant and distorted, was real. Dane. Riker stepped closer, as if drawn to the screen. It's you. I don't have long, she said. They're watching. I'm inside the hive, but a part of me is still free. You're alive, he said, nearly choking on the words. I'm not the same, she said gently. But I remember everything. I remember us, and I know you're still fighting. I never stopped. Leora's eyes flickered. Then listen. There's something coming. A core beast, bigger than anything you faced. It will reach the outpost by dawn. Illyra leaned forward. Why are you warning us? Because I'm still me. Even if my body isn't, Leora said. I can't stop them, but maybe I can help you survive. The screen began to fade. Riker reached out. Wait, Leora. Her voice, one last time. Don't give up. Not yet. The screen went black. Silence filled the room. Illyra spoke first. She's still in there, fighting. Riker's hands fell to his sides. Then we fight too. He turned toward the gate. Rain hit his armor. His eyes were burning, but steady. She saved me once, he said. Now it's my turn. And with that, he walked into the storm, ready for what tomorrow would bring.